Rack and roll, shadows of Centris. Things had shifted into a much more comfortable evening when Madame Oliphas had left. Reginald spent the rest of the evening cuddling up against the mantis woman and silently scheming revenge against the woman. She's actively fucking with both him and Misty. He's not okay with that and will be actively campaigning for the intelligence division to smack the bitch down, or at the very least, let her know she's staring down the barrel of a gun actively doing these things. Business competition is fine, but actively luring someone who wants to kill you into a civilian, or to see how the civilians deal with it, is just wrong. You call the police for something like that, not make it someone else's problem. Another platter of finger foods for a meal, and Reginald and Misty had spoken about things that were pointedly not related to Madame Oliphas. She had unclenched near the end, but it's clear she has a dozen burning questions about what's happened to Belle and what's going on. Still, initial stress aside, an evening spent cuddling and basking in each other's presence is exactly what they both need. So she seriously knew that there was a disgruntled woman stalking her with a weapon and still went to a fitting, Amadi asks, while understanding that a human was there, meaning that it was likely a test. Koa adds in, needless to say, I'm a little on the upset side. Reggie adds in as all three of them are walking along Garthankle Spire. Regardless of personal gripes or issues, there was no excuse to slack off of work, especially when your shift consisted of walking around and receiving whatever stupid bits of conspiracy nonsense gets all but thrown at you by the average citizen. We are all upset, a Nagasha says, tossing a chip at him as she slithers away. He resists the urge to throw it back at her and pockets it instead. Back on topic, do you think that the intelligence division will bring you in on any plans to deal with her? Someone like that is just going to keep pushing, and some revenge would probably taste pretty good, Koa asks. Revenge is sweet indeed, Ametak says, swooping by and placing a chip on Koa's head. He doesn't even change expression as he pockets it. You're right in that she's likely to keep doing something stupid. She seems like the type that believes consequences happen to other people, Reggie admits. The best thing to do is just not acknowledge all the weird and stupid, but not for long. A voice with a Meccan accent states, and an invisible cloaken presses a data chip into his hand. He pockets it as they move on. Well, one way or the other, Madame Oliphas has proven herself to be a pain. I think she's going to find herself staring down a weapon regardless of her personal wealth. Amadi notes, and a Canador woman all but slaps a case into his chest and walks off. They look back at this one and watch as she gets into a cab and is gone in a minute. Ah, fuck, another murder plot. Amadi notes as he looks into the case and sees not only a dart gun but a printout of a target's face and schedule. Hello, cousin? You remember how you asked me to check in, right? Just letting you know we're having a very stimulating walk and there's not a thing to worry about, Koa says into his communicator, and all three men continue on their way. 2 minutes later, a shimmering white van pulls down alongside the edge of the spire platform, and the window rolls down to show a happily waving cloaken woman. Cousin, it's your cousin. Cousin, Koa shouts back in return, and all three men walk up with smiles. Enjoying your role in intelligence? Reggie asks somewhat slyly. He hadn't been sure when this girl was sent from Octoran Spin, but she had quickly proven herself trustworthy. All that was left was to train her. It's hilarious, all the little conspiracies and stupid things people are doing. Helen Shinescale, living up to her name now that she's healthy and happy, gushes in joy. Then she grins. Excuse the next bit of shouting, please. Cousin, your friend looks tired. I have a drink in the back he may find refreshing. Signal given, Amadi opens the passenger door and quickly leans in to divest himself of all chips and uses Axiom to pull all the other ones in. All the information deposited, he grabs a water bottle for himself and leans out again before closing the door. Thank you, Miss Koa's cousin, he says grandly for the show before leaning in to talk more subtly. "We got an assassination attempt in here. That's why we called pickup. How are the other teams doing?" "No one else has something that exciting yet, but the shift's just starting. There's no telling what's going to shake out." Helen answers with a grin. "More importantly, how is life among the undaunted treating you? I understand you were caught between a rock and a hard place when you first showed up. Any regrets?" "Plenty, but none from you guys. You ever look back at the things you used to do or believe and cringe at how stupid you were?" she asks, and all three men nod. "Well, I'm getting a lot of that. It never stops, but if it helps, the fact you regret past actions means you've learned from them and know better," Reggie says. "By the way, do you know if something's being done with Madame Olafus? I've heard her name mentioned a few times, but it's not in any of my work assignments or those working with me. But something is being done. That much I know." Helen replies, and Reggie nods before frowning. "Outside of your work in intelligence, what do you know about her?" "Madame Olafus? She's the head of a multi-corporation empire. She owns 3 fast food chains. She started in a trading company and took control of it before initiating some hostile takeovers. There's a holovid company and a chain of car dealerships under her control as well. She's known to be vicious with her competition and on the up and up. But only technically, however, it's technically enough to get away with things. Corporate sleazebag, basically, the kind that gives the rest a bad reputation." "That sounded personal," Koa remarks lightly. "That was something my mother ranted on more than once," Helen says, and there's a touch of bitterness there. She takes a deep breath and counts to 5. "But that's not your fault or problem. Thanks for the delivery. Let's see if the rest of the shift is as exciting for the other wanderers." "Farewell, cousin. Stay safe," she calls out and rolls up the window before driving away. She's adjusting well. Amadi notes with a grin as he sips at the water. "Yes, she is," Reggie says with a slight smirk. "So, you two have an interesting night with your girls or not?" "I walked away at least 5 pounds heavier with all the food my girls are experimenting with." Amadi notes happily. "Nita and Nika have found one of their better jobs so far and are even getting maternity leave as it's clear they're about to pop. This one seems to be more of a country club than anything, so having guards that have daughters of their own seems to be something to boast about. Apparently they're being hired for aesthetics rather than actual guard duty." Koa explains as they all start walking again. "They do know that your salary can keep them and the upcoming children in good shape, right? They know they don't need to work, don't they?" Reggie asks, and Koa sighs. "They're stupid and stubborn. I've got them working on the stupid. The stubborn is going to take longer." Koa says somewhat blandly, "They have got to be amazing in bed if you're willing to put up with endless shit for them." Amadi teases and Koa smirks. "They are?" 2 enthusiastic midgets working in tandem is very persuasive. The fact that after they were decisively proven wrong, they stopped denying things and started improving is also a big check in the plus column. Koa concludes, and a slobe whizzes by while tossing a data chip into his chest. The chip is in pocket in moments, and the 3 of them move on. "So, either of you start fiddling with some new or interesting toys?" Reggie asks, thinking back to his Jek Tech weapons and how he's been pulling a few apart to figure out exactly what makes the growling sound. There's a Tret Marshall style that includes massive bursts of axiom energy when you hit a target. The trick is to build it up beforehand and have it primed to go off. It's almost like trying to club someone with a landmine." Koa explains, and Amadi outright bursts into laughter at the mental image. "Oh my God," Amadi exclaims, stumbling to the side to lean against Koa. Someone tries to hand him a data chip. He takes it, still laughing. Yay, I got it." "And how about you?" "I've been working on a few tricks. The problem with axiom illusions is that it's really obvious someone's getting screwy with the axiom. Everyone can sense that, so unless all you want is a lot of attention, it can't really be used. So I've been corresponding with my fellow nerds on how to make it blend with the local axiom. So when I want something hidden, it's actually hidden, Amadi explains. You want to be able to hide that you're hiding, Reggie says out loud and smirks as he's handing a data chip. It goes into his pocket. His communicator goes off a few moments later. Hello? He asks. Do you know if Miss Jadeblade has any personal enemies? The deliberately obfuscated voice of an intelligence officer asks, not beyond competitive rivalries or getting flustered when a style or flourish she thinks is tacky wins at some kind of contest. But that's more professional rivalry, Reggie answers. Whoever put that camera above her door was very unfriendly. These are usually considered very subtle and skillful devices. How did you detect it? The intelligence officer asks. I just felt something was wrong. I wasn't completely certain and went with my instincts, Reggie says. When did you find it precisely? After Miss Bell made herself known, meaning that Madame Oliphas was in the studio at the time. It was not there as far as I could tell before she arrived. I don't think Bell was smart enough to put that up, but why would Madame Oliphas? Reggie asks. If it was her, the device is a remote camera designed to take from the local axiom as non-disruptively as possible. Very delicate work, expensive work, and not sold in very large amounts. Nor do they have much staying power. We'll keep you posted with pertinent information. You know how to find me. Reggie returns. Always agent. We can always find you. That's as comforting as it is disturbing. Reggie notes and is passed a data chip that he pockets without a single change in his expression. That's the general idea. Have a good walk. The intelligence officer states and then hangs up. You guys ever get the feeling that you're just pawns in some bigger game? Reggie asks, and to his mild surprise, there's not another data chip thrown at him. You're just getting that feeling now? Amadi asks with a grin. This is Centris. Everyone's playing games with everyone else as the pieces. As Amadi pockets his 3 new data chips, Koa chuckles. The question is not whether or not we're part of someone's game, but what the game is. Chess? Checkers? Go? Chinese checkers? Operation? Poker? It could be anything. And what pieces are we? Reggie asks, and Koa nods before grinning as someone passes Reggie a new data chip. Exactly. Of course, there's also the fact that people aren't tokens on a game board. Koa begins before accepting another data chip. A pawn doesn't panic and lose morale when faced with a rook. A bishop doesn't go rogue and disobey orders because it has a grudge against a particular knight. The king and queen aren't trying to backstab each other and take total power. The data chip that bounces off the side of Koa's head breaks whatever tension there was, and Amadi dissolves into helpless giggles as Reggie scoffs at things. These people need new hobbies, Koa mutters as he picks up the data chip and pockets it. But if they did that, we wouldn't get paid just to walk around and talk about any random subject, Reggie says with a smile. This is not what I expected when I signed up for the Dauntless, Koa remarks plainly. And the blue-skinned short-stack twins with magic wings were, how about the squirrel woman? Amadi asks with a big smile. A fair point, a very fair point. Still, you know what? No, I'm not going to tempt things like that. It's absurd and insane to ask for trouble, or to tempt it, Koa remarks, and Amadi nods. But what could possibly? Amadi begins and finds Koa's large hand wrapped around his mouth and holding it still. So he does the only logical thing he can think of and starts licking. That's disgusting. Koa snaps, pulling his hand away and then wiping it off on Amadi's shoulder. Right. How about we put on some speed instead? Reggie asks as he starts power walking a bit. He dodges the data chip thrown at him by reflex, but Koa snatches it out of the air. I agree.